This is Python Chapter 2, Section C. In this section, you will learn more about simple data types by learning about the numbers type of data. Perhaps you have heard that if you want to be a computer programmer, you should be good at math, or you should know a lot of math, or something like that. And numbers are used quite often in programming in ways that you might be familiar with, like keeping score in games, representing data in visualizations, storing information in web applications, moving something around on a screen in specific places, and so on. Python treats numbers in several different ways, depending on how they're being used. Let's first take a look at how Python manages integers, because they are the simplest to work with. Aren't they just? I hope that you remember from math class, integers are whole numbers. They don't have any decimals in them. They are whole numbers. You can add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide them. And here are the symbols to do just that. The one that tends to trip people up is the star. In Python, you use the star or asterisk. If you look at your keyboard, it's Shift 8. Shift 8, and that's the asterisk or the star, and that means multiply in Python. The other one that trips you up, notice that 3 divided by 2, the division symbol for Python, is the slash that is located under the question mark next to the shift key. The other slash on your keyboard faces the other direction and does not cause division. It's actually the symbol for local files on the computer, so Python would get pretty confused if you used that slash when you meant the slash under the question mark. So make sure you hit the right one for that. Plus and minus should be pretty simple. Do know, the minus is next to the 0, and it's the dash, not the underscore. So on the key next to the 0, if you hit shift and press that key, you get the underscore. And if you don't hit shift, you get a dash. So it is the dash. And that's really the only way I can think of that you would screw this up. So it's pretty straightforward. Python, however, when you go to do exponents, this is important. Perhaps you're familiar with or think about using some sort of caret or something like that. No. To show an exponent, so in this case 3 to the second power, you would use the double asterisk, okay? And in fact, it's kind of nice. We read this 3 to the second or 3 to the third, and I kind of use those 2 beats to remember star star. So it's 3 star star 2, 3 star star 3, 10 star star 6. Honestly, you're not going to use that all that much in this course. However, if you ever do need to work with exponents in math class, you can always just open a Python interpreter and run your exponents quickly like this. I should also mention, I should have mentioned on the last screen, you can run these right into your interpreter. Note the 3 little carets, which indicates that you're running this in the interpreter. So you can do that just to speed things along. You don't need to make a program. But do make sure that you've tested those out, you're finding the right keys, and that you know how to use these operators. If you have been around math class very long, you've probably heard of the order of operations. I learned My Dear Aunt Sally, and now I see there's this other letters they put up there. I don't know. Anyway, parentheses go first, right? And then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. And Python is that smart. So if I give Python 2 plus 3 times 4, it's going to do 3 times 4 first, get 12, add 2 to it, and get 14. If I use parentheses, it will do 2 plus 3 and get 5, then multiply that by 4 and get 20. So it will follow the order of operations like your math book. Let's move on to a new type of data, and that is a float. Python calls any number with a decimal point a float. This term is used in most programming languages, and it refers to the fact that a decimal point can appear at any position in a number, so it can kind of float. Every programming language has to be carefully designed to properly manage decimal numbers because they can get really tricky on the back end. When the program is converted from the language to the binary zeros and ones, that's really complicated. So it's really important that the program is careful with it. You don't care so much because you're not writing a programming language. So for the most part, you can use decimals without worrying about how they behave. Simply enter the number you want to use, and Python will most likely do what you expect. And here are some examples of Python doing what you would expect. Sometimes you can get an arbitrary number of decimal places in your answer. For example, 0.2 plus 0.1 should be 0.3. Python, in this case, decided that it was 0.3 bunch of zeros 4. And it has to do, again, with that binary that's going on behind the scenes. And Python tries to find a way to represent the result as precisely as possible, which can be difficult because of that binary data translation that's going on. When you need to worry about this, you'll learn how to take those extra places out of your number. But really, 0.30004 is reasonably the same as 0.3. And in fact, in different versions of Python, you may not even catch this error because it may be resolved in different versions, but those versions may have other errors. So just be aware that your decimals can get a little tricky for the computer. All right, so we've got a number. Age equals 23, so maybe I have calculated somebody's age based on their birth date or something. And so I can say, happy age birthday. Do pause the video and try that and see what you get. And then come back. Did you try it? Did you really? Okay, good. You probably got something like this. Uh-oh. The print method is a method for strings. When you try to run a string method on a number, an integer, a float, it won't work. So it cannot print a number. Oh no! So when I specifically need to make my number a string, I have to tell it, make it a string. That's all. Python doesn't change the numbers at all. It's still 23. It just tells Python, hey, treat this like a string. So if Python treats the number 23 like a string, it can print it. Doesn't change the variable at all. So this will come up if you've done some computation and then you want to print out that result. You need to use str and put your variable in parentheses, or you could even put a number, an actual number. I don't know why you do that instead of using quotes, but anyway, you could in those parentheses, and the str function will turn it into a string or make Python treat it like a string and then allow you to print it. So you could go ahead and like continue later in the program. You could continue treating age as a number, but you've used the string function to say, hey, treat this like a string. So generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward working with numbers. Numbers are easy for computers for the most part. So if you're getting unexpected results, make sure that Python is treating your string or your number in the way that you want, either as an integer or a string or so on. So you are now ready to work with some numbers in integer and float form. So you've got assignments 2-8 and 2-9, and then we will move on to do 2D. So just a couple assignments to make sure that you are understanding how to use numbers. Good luck.